context of Mr. Bojangles and America, and we were talking about seventh chords, and we were talking about that, and my homework assignment was to explore seventh chords
Okay.
and in E, A, and D,
Good.
which I
Perfect.
did, which I did dutifully in the form of this chart that I made, which you probably can't see it now.
Hold it up. Hold it just a little further. Let me just take a quick look. If you can get closer to the camera with it. Oh, okay, great. So you wrote out the names of the. You spelled out the chords.
I spelled out the chords.
Great. I got it. Yeah.
Okay, and so I spelled them out, and I did so E7, E major seven, E minor seventh,
Okay.
and then I didn't know if anything came after that. That's question number one.
Okay. Good. We'll get to that.
Was because I couldn't figure out. I didn't go back and look at any source material or anything. I just
Okay.
tried to reason it out, and I
Okay.
couldn't figure out how you could have an E minor major seventh, if there is such a thing, or if that was the end of the line. So I only came up with five chords, and I probably should be more.
Great.
Okay.
You hit the nail right on the head. There is E minor major seven. There is a
Okay.
fourth. There's a fourth seventh chord instead of just the three you have,
Okay.
because you've got two variables. You've got the third and the seventh that both could be two different notes.
Right.
So there are four combinations of the variables. In other words, so you started with the major triad, and then you added two different sevenths to that major triad.
Right.
The real seventh, or what we call a major seventh, meaning the seventh in the scale, and
Seventh.
the flatted seventh, which is also called a minor seventh, which adds to the confusion of. So an interval is qualified as either major or minor. Just the distance between two notes is called a major or minor interval. So not only do we use the word major seventh and minor seventh for chords, they're used for just the interval of a seventh, meaning just the distance between those two notes.
Okay. So let's just, in a practical sense, let's march through E here, just for
Okay,
fun. So it's all. I'll start from the very top here.
perfect, perfect.
So an E chord, which is E, G sharp, and B. That's the triad there,
That's E major, right? Got it.
or an E major chord. And so if we're going to make that into a seventh chord, we're going to add the flatted seventh of that scale, which is going to be the note D.
Right.
Okay. And if we're going to make it a major seventh, we're going to add D sharp, which is in the scale.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Now we go to E minor, and
Okay.
E minor is E, G, and B.
Yep. We flatted the third from so we have a minor third now
Right.
instead of the major third we had in the other chord.
Right.
Okay.
And then our E minor seventh is going to be E, G, B, and D flat. Am I going to call it D flat?
No, because it's going to be the same seventh as in E7.
Oh, just D.
Right. D
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
the flatted seventh.
But if I go across a oh, right. Okay, E minor. You know, okay. All right, I was confused there. Okay, right. Okay, I got it. But
Right.
I mean, if I went across the minor scale, the E minor scale,
Hmm.
I would come up with D as my seventh.
Right. Okay, so that's where you got the idea of D flat, that you had to
Yeah.
flat it out of the minor scale. So whenever we use numbers as formulas for chords, the
Uh-huh.
numbers are always based on the major scale, nothing else. In other
Right.
words, so when we talk about G as the third of the minor chord, that's a
Uh-huh.
flatted third from the major scale.
Okay.
And in the minor scale, G would be the real third.
Yes.
So another way of this is opening a confusing door. So be careful,
Okay.
or I'll try to be careful, but just hang with me.
Okay.
Um, so Well, first of all, when we call a chord major and we say it's 135, we mean it's 135 of the major scale.
Right.
And when we then we use that as kind of our foundation for all the other chords. So when we talk about a minor chord, we say we flat the third.
Hmm.
But if we use the minor scale as our reference point,
Hmm.
that flatted third is the natural third in the minor scale, because an E minor scale would have G natural in it.
Yeah.
So you could really confuse somebody by saying, well, a minor chord is also 1, 3, and 5, and I don't have to flat the third because it's already flatted in the scale.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's like you just got to make sure you know what you're using as your baseline kind of. And so we always use the major scale as the baseline and alter notes from there.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, what I was doing was I was using the spacing of the minor scale
Okay.
as my 1, 3, and 5. So
Okay.
instead of whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half,
Right.
it's doing whole, half, whole, half, whole. And I'm
Right.
using 3 and 5 out of that.
Yeah.
Is that going to end up being the same thing?
That's the same thing. In other words, you've changed what I'm calling as the baseline. You're labeling the notes from the minor scale rather than the major scale.
Right.
And in that scenario, in a minor scale from 7 to 8 is a whole step.
Yeah.
Okay?
Right.
So really the formula for a minor seventh chord based on the major scale is 1 flat 3 5 flat 7.
Okay, I get that.
But if we're going to base that formula on the minor scale,
Yeah.
it's 1 3 5 7.
Okay. So the seventh. Okay. All right. All right. I got that. Now,
Okay.
now how do then how do we take the next step there to E minor major seventh?
Okay. So again, let's make sure that we're always numbering things from our E major scale.
Okay.
Okay. So we got a half step at 3 and 4, a half step at 7 and 8.
Right.
Okay. And so when so the third of either chord, the third of any chord could be a major third or a minor third.
Hmm.
And if it's major, there are two chords, two triads that start with a major third.
Hmm.
What are the two?
There's two triads that start with a major third um, in any major chord. So that would be, well, in the case of E, um, it would be just E major.
That'd be one of them.
That would be one of them, and then it would be, well, E seventh.
No, just triads now. I'm only talking about three note chords.
Just triads.
Yeah.
Just triads.
So let me back up a half step. How many different kinds of how many different triads do we have?
We have um, major, minor, augmented, diminished.
There you go. Okay, so we got to remember that there are four starting points when we're talking about triads.
Okay.
Okay, and so two of those start with a major third. The
Okay.
augmented one does as well.
Okay.
And then what the augmented has different is it's got a two steps to the fifth because the fifth has to be raised. Right? So the formula for an augmented chord is 1 3 sharp 5.
Okay.
Okay? And then the formula for diminished is kind of the opposite of that. It's a flatted third and a flatted fifth. So both the distances in a diminished chord are small. They're both a step and a half.
Okay.
And both the distances in an augmented chord are big. They're both 2.
Okay.
From 1 to 3 is 2, and 3 to sharp 5 is 2.
Right.
Okay? So that's our four, that's the only triads that exist. Major, minor, diminished, and augmented.
Okay.
And again, they're built in thirds, and the distance of a third can either be a step and a half or 2. That's it. From any note to its third, it's either a step and a half or 2 steps apart, or it's not a third. It's a fourth or a second or something else if it's bigger or
Right.
smaller. Okay?
Right.
So So anyway, that's why we have four kinds of triads, because we've got, two possible distances
Yep.
among our three notes,
Okay.
and each distance can be two. Anyway, you kind of with me there?
Yep.
Okay. Um, and so that's the whole foundation of our chord system, is that it's all based on triads as the starting point.
Right.
Then we expand those triads and add another third on
Mm-hmm.
top of the fifth.
Mm-hmm.
So we now stack another third up there, and
Right.
we have the same the same, yeah, possibilities of that note can be a step and a half or two steps from the fifth, and still fall in the rules of our harmony rules, which are chords are built in thirds,
Right.
and there are two possible thirds.
Okay.
Similarly, to step back another half step, scales are built in seconds, one note to the next. And there's two possibilities for a second. It can be a whole step or a half step.
Okay.
So see, every scale, every normal or natural scale, uses only whole steps and half steps in it. And, where those half steps are kind of determines what we're going to call that scale. Minor, major, or mixolydian, the modes, those are all things that fall into that category. Okay, so now we get to the seventh, and one thing we're only talking about our major and minor triads to begin with, and we're not worried about diminished or augmented here. Okay, so we're kind of like leaving that on the side for now, but
Right.
we went over it a little bit, and so in both a major and a minor triad, the fifth is the same note.
Right.
So from that fifth, we have two possible sevenths for
Right.
both chords, for the major triad and the minor one. And
Right.
so in the major triad, from 5 to 7, or in the scale from 5 to 7, is exactly how far?
In a major,
In a major scale, what's the distance from 5 to 7?
from 5 to 7 is 2 steps.
Right, okay? And that gets us to within a half step of 1 again, because we've only got a half step from 7 back to 8, okay?
Right. Right.
So that's the distance we call a major seventh again, from 1 to 7, and the seventh note is in the scale.
Okay.
But that seventh from 5 to 7, sorry, the third from 5 to 7 could also be a step and a half and still be legal.
Okay.
That's where we get this flatted seventh idea. We've lowered the seventh note a half step and made it a smaller third rather than the bigger third.
Right.
And so that's where we get these two possible sevenths for any triad, whether it's major, minor, or even diminished, maybe augmented. Again, don't want to go there, but okay. So we definitely so in both of those triads we have two possible sevenths.
Right.
Okay, and a really good way to keep them straight in your head and even write them down is label the third and the seventh. In other words, use two qualifying terms that tell me what kind of third do I have and what kind of seventh do I have. And so if we were going to label the major seventh chord by labeling what kind of third we have and what kind of seventh, well, in that chord they're both major, right? We've got a major third and a major seventh.
Mm-hmm.
So the most descriptive name for that chord, or what would maybe be the clearest, is to call it major major 7, because I'm describing the third and then the seventh, and that's it, And then the one that has the flatted seventh, now we have major minor 7.
Right.
Okay? And that's the chord we just call 7.
Right.
Right? Okay. And then we have, now if we flat the third, so your third seventh chord that you've got on your page there is minor 7. That
Right.
means we've got a flatted third.
Right.
And we're not really saying anything about the seventh, but if we were to call that one by its double name, it would be minor minor. Because we've got a flatted third and a flatted seventh.
Okay.
Okay? So that's the chord that its reduced name just becomes minor 7.
Right.
Right? So when we call a chord minor 7, it means you actually have a minor third and a minor seventh.
Right.
When we call it major seventh, it means both of those are major.
Right.
Then the one that is the hybrid, one of the two hybrid ones that has a major third and a minor seventh, it just gets the name seven, because it's actually the most common one. So it's like we don't bother to say major minor.
Right.
And and technically there is a better description for that term. Do you remember what we call that chord to distinguish it from the others? There is a word that I haven't said yet today that identifies that particular seventh, the major minor one.
The major minor seventh.
Meaning like E7. So if
Like
we see,
seven.
yeah, E7,
E7. Something different than E7.
yeah, there's a word we're not saying because it's understood. Um,
Well,
what 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 key includes the chord E7? If we play an E7 chord, what step of the scale is it probably in whatever key we're in? Any idea?
the fifth.
Right. What's the name for the fifth step of the scale?
Dominant.
That's the word. We use the word dominant seventh to describe that chord.
Okay.
Okay? So that's the official title of the chord that we just call E7.
Okay.
So if we're talking about all these ones and you or I get confused as to which one we're talking about, then we throw in the word dominant and it's like, you were talking about E7. Not E major 7, not E minor 7, right?
Okay.
So, okay. This is about the end of the story, by the way, too. I think, but we do have the one thing, because when I said earlier, you hit the nail on the head. We have one other seventh chord that we haven't addressed yet, and that would be the chord that has the minor third and the major seventh. And that has a few different names, but one of them is minor major 7. So that sometimes that and it's the least common of all of them,
Uh,
and it's used in very specific instances. I'll give you an example of places you've heard it when we get in just a minute. But um, but a lot of times that's called the shortcut for that name. By the way, I've been recording all this, so you can relive it as many times as you want. Okay,
okay.
but the we also use the symbols plus and minus in front of numbers to mean alter them again from what they would be if that number weren't there. Meaning, and plus would mean raise it, minus would mean lower it.
Mm-hmm.
So the most common name for this chord is minor plus 7. And what that plus does is it raises the seventh back up to a major seventh, because if I just called it minor 7, I got a flatted seventh.
Okay.
So minor plus 7 is the name of that chord. And so an example, so do all these on D. How did you, so show me all the D chords you just did. Or just
Yeah.
did you work on how to play them all?
Okay. So D. So we're playing D major
Yeah?
there. So D, F sharp, and A.
Yep.
And then D seventh is D, F sharp, A, and C.
Okay.
And so that we play like this because we have the D up here.
Yep.
And right?
Yep.
D, okay. And then D major seventh is D, F sharp, A, and C sharp, like here,
Yep.
right?
Okay.
Okay. Then D minor is here.
Yep.
D, F, and A sounds minor.
Yeah.
And D minor 7 is, let's see, D minor 7th is here. Right? Is that
So
right?
what did you add to that? What note? What
Oh,
is the seventh supposed to be in D minor 7?
it's supposed to be B. No,
No.
no, it's supposed to be C.
Right. You don't have a C yet.
Yeah, okay. Oh, right, right, right. Okay, yeah, so it's this little guy. We've had that one before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So what was the one you just played? What was the wrong one that you just played?
Okay, the wrong one that I just played here.
Yeah.
Um, well, that would be let's see, D minor major 7.
That's it. That's D minor major 7 or D minor plus 7.
D minor plus 7. Okay.
And the places you hear this chord, you don't really hear it. Like if I was playing something, I was strumming a C chord and A minor and G and F or something like that. And if I was going to go to D minor 7, one of those, and for it to be in the key, it would be the normal D minor 7. Like, see, you could see that all those chords fit together. But if I did this, there was the D minor plus 7 instead of D minor 7. Okay,
Right.
and it's a harsh sounding chord,
Yes.
but you've heard it in progressions like this. There's a James Taylor song that does that. I think he's in C sharp minor probably. Long, long ago, a young man sits and plays his waiting game. Anyway, it's for, what's that called? Long Ago and Far Away. James Taylor song from, yeah. It's what you hear in this. Now that second chord, we don't hear that as really dissonant because we've heard this chord progression 1,000 times.
Yeah.
But if I just play that chord out of the blue, you know, it's like the James Bond type chord or something, you know. But when you hear it, what happens is you usually hear it in a progression. I'll go back to D minor. You usually hear it going from D minor to the major 7 to the minor 7. And that, so you got this chromatic descent of one note or another. Ah. If I could save time in a bottle. Now in that case it's done in the bass, but listen to those notes up there. If I could save time in a bottle. It's this chromatic descent that's when that chord gets used a lot. So you don't just hear it out of the blue, you know, randomly. It's almost, that's where it fits in chords in a descending minor progression.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, sounds like you got all of those.
I just have
You got the hang of it now.
all I have to do is add, which I'll fill in later. I have to add a line for the major, minor, 7th.
Other way, minor, major.
Minor, oh, I'm sorry, minor, major, 7th.
Yeah.
Okay, so A, minor, major, 7, D, minor, major, 7, which I can also call plus 7,
Yeah.
right?
Minor plus 7.
Minor or, yeah, okay, that equals D minor plus 7.
So two other quick thoughts on this. One is with the D's, really the only place you can add this, you don't have two possibilities of where to put a 7th into a D chord because we're only playing 4 strings. Right. And well, like I just played Time in a Bottle, and that descent happens in the bass, but that makes it, that's kind of like a different animal. Yep. But in both the A world and the E world, there are 2 different places you can add the 7th. There's always going to be a 7th in the middle and a higher 7th. You know, because, okay, so you've played A7 probably a couple different ways. You know that you can play A7 with an open G, but you can also play it with a high G.
Okay.
Right? E has the same situation. The note you need for 7 can be found in 2 different places. And sometimes one of those places might be really difficult to find to reach the other 7th. You know, in other words, anyway, just as you head down that path, just a heads up on that.
Okay.
Okay. And the last thing, this might be going too far, but since the 3rd and the 7th of the chord are the biggest, make the biggest impact on the sound, whether it's the 3rd determines whether we got major or minor, the 7th determines whether we've got a dominant sound, and that means flat 7. Even if we have a whole bunch more notes, 9ths, 11ths, all that stuff, the flat 7th, or whether we have the major 7th sound, which is a completely different sound too, right? So that's what I mean. We've got these different ingredients, sort of. Yeah. And another way that you might be able to remember how some of this works, although you probably have it pretty clear in your head right now, is that the 3rd in a chord is always major unless the word minor is in the chord. And the word minor is only talking about the 3rd, nothing else.
Right.
Now the seventh is the opposite. It's automatically minor unless the word major is thrown in.
Is appended to it. Okay.
Right. And so no matter how long the name of a chord is, if we're talking about 11 flat 9 minus 5, if the word minor is in there, that changes only the third.
Hmm.
And if the word major is in there, it changes only the seventh.
Okay.
So the other three big numbers, 9, 11, and 13,
Yeah.
never don't get the dignity of having their own word that tells you whether they're sharped or flatted or altered or anything. They only get altered with plus and minus signs.
Right.
So that's the end of this story. Is the word minor in a chord is only talking about the third, and the difference between C13 and C minor 13 is that one note. The other six notes in the chord are all the same. But if we've put the word major in there, now we've altered the seventh, and only the seventh.
Okay.
Okay? So again, the sum of that is a third is major by default, unless you call it minor. And the seventh defaults the other way. It defaults to minor unless you
Okay.
throw the word major in.
Okay.
Okay, that's enough to have you swimming for a while, probably. But
Yeah. And the okay. And then and the seventh is the dominant seventh is unsaid, but it's the minor.
it's a flatted seventh, but a major
Dominant
third.
seventh is the dominant
Right.
seventh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And again, that's the chord we commonly could just call seven. We don't use
Okay.
any other name for that. So
Okay. And just okay. Let's just add one more thing to this.
okay.
In the E, A, and D, if you had to just pick a song, one song that is the song to remember the seventh in E, A, and D, what would you pick?
Okay. I got one that's got two really that uses A and D.
Okay.
And it's a four chord progression. It goes from A major 7. So write this down. A major 7
Hmm.
to A minor 7 to D major 7 to D minor 7. And that is 95% of the song.
D major seventh to D minor seven.
Let me play those four chords for you in a row and see if you can pin down what song this is. There's about a 1% chance you won't know this song. Okay? So if you hear this chord, that's the major 7 sound. Now I'm going to go to A minor 7, and then D major 7, and then D minor 7, and back to A major 7. Now, without me putting any rhythm in there or doing anything else, I don't think you could pin it down yet. But if I just put a little picking pattern in it, but don't tell you the melody. It's still a long shot.
Don't have it yet.
At times I just don't know how you could be anything but beautiful. I think that I was made for you, and you were made for me. And I know that I will never change, 'cause we've been friends through thick and thin, or something, for such a long time. Did we hit that 1%?
I'm the 1%.
That's a Gordon Lightfoot song called "Beautiful."
Oh, okay.
Yeah, maybe write that down too and go listen to it. I'm sure he's capoed at the second fret, so he's probably not in that key, but that's the progression. A very unusual progression.
Okay. Beautiful. Okay. Okay, so we got the A's and the D's covered there. How about one song in the E's?
The one of the ones we talked about a little bit last time. the Gymnopédie by Eric Satie.
Oh, right.
Okay, that's A major 7 to E major 7 are the first two chords. Now I don't know if Blood, Sweat, and Tears did it in that key. That's how guitar players usually do it. But so yeah, so Gymnopédie, which is, I don't know how your French spelling it is. It's Gymnopédie. Number one. There are three of those by Satie, right? Satie, Eric Satie.
Hmm.
And let me
Well,
listen.
this is the one that was on the Blood, Sweat, and Tears.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Let me see what key they did it in here. Okay, there. So theirs is G major 7 and D major 7.
G major 7 and D. Okay.
Whereas the way I just played it was a whole step higher, A major 7 and E major 7. And then we talked a little. Well, let's carry on into America then, because that also is sort of relates to these major 7 sounds.
Right.
Well, here's another really cool sound. Another. See if you recognize this song. Oh, there's no way I can sing it, but. This is the first chord was D minor 7. It was D minor 7 and C major 7 that I was playing there, which would be chords number 1 and 2 in the key of C. C major 7 would be 1, D minor 7 would be 2. Have you seen... Oh man, it's in a horrible key. This guy has a really high voice. Have you seen the sunlight pour through her hair? There we go, something like that.
Does he call it?
Felt her warm mouth on you in the summer's air. Running in a field of brown, laughing, rolling on the ground, smiling as she pulls you down. There we go. That's the way she feels about you. So Sunlight opens up with chord number 2 and chord number 1 in the key of C. So, and it's got this really jazzy sound. That's what you hear with this minor 7, D minor 7, and C major 7.
Okay.
You know, 10 years ago when that song jumped out, it came, got played here in the house, and my wife just dropped everything. She said, oh my God, that voice. It's like so recognizable. She didn't know at the time that it was him, but she said, I recognize his voice every time I hear it, and I said, oh, that's, well, you heard it in Get Together. And she, yeah, but anyway, but Sunlight, I mean, just an opening line of his is just so beautiful, and it's really memorable.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Colin Young. Whatever happened? Is he still alive?
Yeah, he's yeah, and I think he's recorded some stuff. He looks really different, long wavy gray hair now, still has the pipes though. I mean, you could find some YouTube videos of him about 10 years ago, and he may still be there. He settled in Kona, and so he lives, in kind of in relative obscurity. But what I've talked to other musicians that have been there or know the area or that live in the area, they make it clear that he's got a real he's just really helpful in the community and stuff, and matter of fact, this is what happened. I was doing a concert someplace on the Big Island, and it turned out they needed an amplifier or something, for in this church or whatever I was doing. And one guy said, well, let's just call Jesse, he'll bring an amp down here. And it's like, really? It turned out we didn't have to, but it's like that was their attitude of we could just borrow one from him.
Let's just call Jesse. That's
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know if he still lives there, but he lived up in Marin for a long time when he wrote that album Song for Julie with songs like Ridge Top on it and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, and that was just a great tune, the jazzy sax thing and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Well, in America, that's okay. Now that we're down this path here,
okay.
in America, we're descending across. Find a pick here. What do they do with that? Jesus. So go from C, and then we have C in, with B in the bass.
Oh, you're talking about Bojangles.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm talking about the beginning of America.
Oh, Paul Simon's America. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sorry. Gotcha.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
right.
Yep.
And then we go to B in the bass,
Yeah.
and then A minor, and then A minor with this G in the bass. That's A seventh, isn't it?
Almost. Wait, think that through one more time.
Oh, it's in the key. It's in the key.
Yeah.
So it's A major seven. A,
Oh, because
A minor major seven.
no,
No?
it's just A because it's just A minor seven. In other words, G would be the note that makes right.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right.
But in this case, because it's in the bass, so technically this chord should be called A minor seven slash G.
Okay.
And we call that an inversion. Anytime you have something other than the root in the bass, it's an inversion. So this
Right.
is an inversion that has the seventh in the bass.
Okay.
And so in kind of and we have two other notes that could have been inversions. We could have had the third in the bass or the fifth in the bass. Okay, and those are all inversions of a chord. So anytime you have anything other than the root in the bass, it's an inversion.
Okay.
Okay, and but calling this chord A minor seven slash G can create redundancy. Like you might start with an A minor seven chord that already has a G in it, and then put that G in the bass, and now you've got two G's. You don't need them. Once we put the G in the bass,
Oh,
we don't have to have it elsewhere.
I see. I see.
Okay,
Yeah.
but and that's even true of the C chord with B in the bass, because B would be a major seventh of a C chord.
Right.
So technically that would be the same thing, C major seven with the seventh in the bass.
Right.
But it's much simpler and clearer to just call it C with B in the bass and don't worry about the fact that it's really a C major seven chord.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not okay. All right. That sort of takes care of in America. That takes care of all the verse section,
Right.
and then when we get down to the bridge section, um, which I actually haven't gotten down to yet, uh,
Okay.
it's B major seventh, B flat major seventh, and C major seventh.
Yeah. And so to play B flat anything, it's going to be a bar chord.
Right. Right. It's the bar chord right here. Right.
Right. And so the chord you have to know, the shape you have to know is A major seven in order to play B flat major seven.
Right. 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 So
So what is A major seven?
so A major seven is let's see, we're A
Yeah. Oh
and
yeah. Sorry. Not quite, because that would be what note did you put in there to make it seven?
um let's see, I have to be, oh, it has to be F sharp.
Not F sharp. What note is seven in A? Just what letter?
In A, well, it's a half step below A.
Right.
So it's G sharp.
G sharp. Yeah.
G sharp. Yeah,
So G sharp would give us A major seven.
right.
And what you played a second ago was you put a G in that chord.
I'm sorry, what?
A second ago you took your first finger off,
Right.
which
Oh,
gives
that's
us
the
what?
G. Oh, yeah, so we just go to here.
Right. There you go.
Right, 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 right. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's D major seven up a string.
It's the D7 shape
D7
up a
shape.
string.
Up a
Right.
string. D7 shape up a
Not right. 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 Yeah.
string. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is, if this
So
is C major seven,
no, that's A major seven,
I'm sorry, A major seven,
and we need B
and
flat major seven.
B flat major seventh is that
Not quite.
that.
No. Go back to the A major seven, but now play it with your other three fingers. free up your first finger and use three different fingers other than your first to do that. Yeah,
Here.
that's the
Oh,
movable. Yeah, see it?
here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, there we go. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And so there's just a matter whether or not I can hit the B flat.
Yeah, and
That's a mechanical question. Okay.
I would lower that bar a little bit. Oh, also don't forget, he plays this with a capo at the third fret. So as soon as you capo this up the neck, that chord will get easier.
Yeah. The third fret.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
And the
so we're
most
here.
important,
We're going to go from here
yeah,
here.
and the most important note in this chord, as far as the bar is concerned, is the fifth string. So if you're not getting anything else out of the bar, you got to have the root.
Yeah. Got to have the root. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, and you're getting the first string too. That's the only other note we care about in the bar, the fifth string and the first string. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Now the next chord in the song is C major 7, which you could easily just, yeah, there's a couple possibilities here, but that's one of them. Right, okay. Now you could have also just moved the B flat up a whole step.
Oh, right. Sure.
You could have stayed in the bar chord world. Yeah.
Oh, well, that seems like that's the way to do it.
Especially because it's going right back to the B flat, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Then after a couple pairs of that, right, then we have
we
F
just go to
major
F.
7 coming up, right?
We're just going to F. Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't say F major 7? Just
No.
says F? Okay, good. Yeah.
It does at the end of the next line.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
well, the next one after the two pairs, so it goes from B major seventh, 4 bars of that, C major seventh, 4 bars of that, back to B major seventh, 4, C major seventh, and then 4 bars of F.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Okay. And then C with B in the bass, and that's
Right, this is just echoing. Right. And then here's the one little twist. The next chord is not F. Yeah. Actually, it's D7 with F sharp, right? Or is it A minor with F sharp?
A minor with F sharp.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you could just wrap your thumb around like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it goes to F again. Or now it goes to F major 7, right?
F major 7.
This one we don't want to play as a bar. So do you remember how to play F major? Yeah, we want that F. Yeah. And now you can still get the F in the bass with your thumb if you can. So what you're trying to hear there.
Let's see. Well, I want to F major 7th. Am I playing the E on the bottom, or is it a?
Yeah, that's what makes it major 7. It's an F chord. We need that E.
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when he finishes that line, we hear laughing on the bus, playing games with the faces. Oh, when you go to C major 7, most people play it with the G in the bass just so they don't have to worry about the E string coming out. So a lot of times people will play this C major 7 with 3 fingers. With
Okay.
the C and the G with both notes at the 3rd fret.
Okay. So.
Yeah. 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 So it's a little safer. The G in the bass is not bad. The E, if you hit the E in the bass on this chord, it sounds like an E minor chord. So so this is kind of like how most people play C major 7, is allowing this to be an inversion by having the 5th in the bass.
Okay.
Okay. I'm gonna take the capo off and do it down here so I can sing the melody for you. We got right. When we finally get to that other part, we got laughing on the bus, playing games with the faces. She said the man in the gabardine suit was a spy. Here's the F, right? I said be careful, his bow tie is really a camera. Really important to hear that bass line descend through the F sharp to the F natural, and that kicks us into the third verse. Toss me a cigarette, I think, you know. So that's the way that all works.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. I should probably wrap it up. I got another student in a few minutes, but I think thanks for sitting through all that theory stuff on the seventh chords and
Well,
things.
that's great.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's really good if we can get that a little less mysterious, you know,
Yes.
and get more comfortable having all five. You know, major and minor are simple, but the three primary seventh chords, major seven, minor seven, and dominant seven, are ones that you should just have to never even think about again. Oh, it's A major seven. Like knock it out like you knew it, like it was a D chord or something.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So I'll
Yeah.
do that with all that in mind. I will do that.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We're let's see.
Are we going to shoot for the 31st still?
I think it's the 31st. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because that'll. Let me. I can